Powered by the Montana Television Network. This is the 5:30 News on KPAX, Montana's news leader.
Good evening, I'm Jill Valley.
And I'm Dennis Bragg. Critical fire weather conditions in the forecast for today through Saturday.
The areas impacted will be western Montana and north central Idaho. That means thunderstorms, gusty winds, and the potential for new fire starts and rapid fire growth. Let's go get the very latest now with Chief Meteorologist Aaron Yost. Aaron.
Stuff like this, our air quality. Now Saturday and Sunday, with the passage of this cold front, we could definitely see some mixing of the atmosphere, which is exactly what we need right about now. But like you just mentioned, it could fan the flames, so to speak, and make for some possible new fire starts. Hamilton today for Security Bank ICAM. We already have some thunderstorms rolling into the southern end of Ravalli County as we speak. A lot of lightning strikes being picked up here by our lightning tracker. So something we will continue to see happen here throughout the evening hours. We could see another shot tomorrow with the actual passage of our cold front, which is mainly going to be dry. Biggest concern will be wind. I've got all those details coming up in your forecast.
And as Aaron said, it's not the wholesale air quality improvement we might be hoping for, but weather changes should help us breathe a little easier as we go into the weekend. Once again today, air quality in Missoula and across most of western Montana has ranged from unhealthy to hazardous as we remain buried in a thick blanket of fire smoke. In fact, locations like Seeley Lake continue to set records with unheard of layers of smoke. But Missoula City County Health Department's air quality specialist Sarah Cofield says with the obnoxious high pressure ridge starting to shift east, the smoke should begin to ease somewhat overnight, and wind Saturday will help mix the air, like Aaron said, although critical fire weather could generate new smoke.
With the high pressure ridge moving east, we're going to start seeing more air movement, and we are not going to be downwind of as much really thick overhead smoke in the future. Troublesome thing with those strong winds is strong winds on the fires, and once the smoke has moved off and the sun is able to really hit those fires, we're likely to see increased fire activity, which means more smoke production.
We'll likely see a return of smoke as high pressure builds again to start next week, but Cofield is optimistic we're seeing the worst of it right now, with a more long-term change in the weather pattern shaping up a week from now. Because of the smoke, 10 western Montana high school football games have either been moved or postponed tonight because of the horrendous air quality. Sports Director Derek Berkeley will have the breakdown on what schools are being impacted coming up later in sports.
At the 122,000-acre Rice Ridge fire, managers are preparing for that cold front to move in from the west this weekend, meaning those gusty winds could push this fire south and east. And crews are removing fuels and preparing a 19-mile fuel break north of Ovando, which is looking to be in the direction the fire might be headed. MTN's Augusta McDonald was on the fire lines this afternoon.
Crews are prepping lines to contain expected Rice Ridge fire activity north of Highway 200 with backburning and fuel removal.
And so the next bunch will be over the next couple of days. We're looking at a cold front that may come in, and I think this is the leading edge of it. And so we'd like to keep the fire low intensity, start here and work it down. And then when it gets closer to the road, we will start doing what we call hand firing.
Between 4,500 and 6,000 acres will be backburned down to the 477 road. Depending on conditions, they may use hand or aerial ignition. This could happen before early next week. 7 homes and multiple other buildings are in the area, and crews are taking precautions to protect those structures.
Fire managers are using heavy machinery to create a fuel break on this side of the road along 19 miles of the 477 road in order to prevent the fire from making a run and potentially jumping this road and heading towards structures.
The Montour Creek Guard Station and Montour Campground are also in the path of a southeast running fire. Flames approached within 200 feet of the guard station Saturday night, which is about 8 miles north of Ovando. Crews continue to mop up areas that were torched over the weekend. Reporting in Seeley Lake, I'm Augusta McDonald for MTN News.
There has been minimal fire activity this week on Rice Ridge, but all those evacuation warnings and orders remain the same. And Lewis and Clark County leaders are also preparing for Rice Ridge, which is on their doorstep. It has repeatedly, of course, threatened Seeley Lake for weeks now, but there is a new concern.
The fire is burned within about 6 miles of the 16,000-acre Park Creek fire. MTN's Jonathan Ambarian spoke with county emergency officials about their plans should the fire start to move toward Lincoln.
A county commissioner, local fire chiefs, and representatives from groups like the Forest Service and the Red Cross were all on hand for a meeting in Lincoln Friday morning. Sheriff Leo Dutton says they had to start thinking about how they'll respond if one of the major wildfires starts to spread rapidly.
One of our concerns is that the Rice Ridge fire will burn into the Park Creek fire. We need to be ready. We need the citizens to be ready.
Smoky conditions have made it difficult to determine how far the Rice Ridge fire has spread. If it burns too far south, leaders are concerned prevailing winds could drive it towards subdivisions west of Lincoln. They've determined a set of key points. If the fire reaches those, they will start planning to issue pre-evacuation warnings.
We've taken into consideration big fuels that will burn for a long time, the wind speed, how fast it could possibly travel. We're trying to give people approximately 2 hours to be ready.
While leaders are especially concerned about the Rice Ridge fire, they're also making plans in case the Alice Creek fire approaches Lincoln from the east. The predicted weekend weather could also mean new fires will start.
Mother Nature happens to be in control right now, and we're just reacting to it, and that's what's going to happen.
Leaders say it's important for them to have a detailed plan in case the worst should happen, but they say they're also trying to reassure people here in the Lincoln community.
The people who are assembled here are planning for the worst, but hoping for the best. Nobody should be panicked, but that everyone should be vigilant.
In Lincoln, Jonathan Amberian, MTN News.
Steely Swan High School classes will continue to be held at the Paws Up Ranch in Greeno for the next week. The decision to remain there for a second week was based on air quality, the potential for a future evacuation order, transportation to after-school athletic practices, and the ability to offer students an actual productive learning experience during these extraordinary times. Over the last few days, a thick cloud of smoke has helped slow fire growth on the Sprague fire that's burned nearly 14,000 acres in Glacier National Park. Visibility is less than a mile throughout the park, as you can see here. It's eerie video from Apgar Village today. 2 helicopters are grounded until visibility improves to at least a mile. The National Weather Service is predicting a frontal passage to take place within the next 24 hours, and that again will be good for lifting the smoke, but again could make that fire more active. The benefit of having the smoke is that it allowed fire managers to prep the Lake McDonald Lodge if the fire should reach it. A 6-inch pump was installed yesterday at the lodge that can pump up to 700 gallons of water a minute from the lake.
If we do get an ember shower, one of the main tools we'll use to protect the lodge that is so cherished that everyone loves is a large fire engine, a structure engine with a ladder truck. And it's, I believe, a 100-foot ladder, and it can pump 1,200 gallons of water a minute, and it has the ability to reach up and actually spray the entire roof on Lake McDonald Lodge here.
Coming up tonight, MTN reporter Nicole Miller will have an in-depth look at more on the ways fire managers are preparing to protect that lodge, as well as insight for the incident meteorologist.
And Glacier National Park is no longer issuing backcountry permits for overnight camping because of the fire conditions. There are no backcountry evacuations at this time, although there are some trail areas closed around Sprague Fire. There is no immediate threat to backcountry users, but the park wants to make sure nobody gets caught back there. The duration that these permits will be not issued is not known at this time, again because of the higher fire danger that we're still in and the extended fire season outlook.
The West Fork fire near Libby has grown to 8,700 acres. Evacuation orders and warnings remain in effect near that fire. Specifics on those evacuations from the Lincoln County Sheriff's Office can be found on our website. A planned burnout over the last 2 days. It worked with about 900 acres completed. These operations were done in the Bobtail Ridge Road, and the Quartz Creek Road area. The Caribou fire burning in extreme northwest Montana grows to just over 21,000 acres. A full evacuation order remains in effect for the West Kootenai area north of Tule Lake, while a pre-evacuation warning is still in place for the West Kootenai area south of Tule Lake and the Basin Creek area. Fire managers report cooler temperatures and lighter winds helped reduce fire activity. So what's next with this one? Well, public meetings to talk about the Caribou fire and the nearby Gibraltar Ridge fire burning near Eureka will be held in 2 locations to accommodate the travel needs of those who live there. The meetings will be held at 7 until 8 tomorrow at the Eureka High School at night and at 3984 West Kootenai Road. That's happening in Rexford.
Some residents living near the Highway 200 complex in Sanders County are back home. Sheriff Tom Rummel lifted the evacuation notice for River Road West near Plains. Early this morning, Sheriff's Office says only residents of this area will be allowed to travel from the roadblock into their homes and receive passes at those roadblocks. Those complex fires near Thompson Falls and Plains have consumed nearly 19,000 acres total. The Sheep Gap fire remains the biggest of those fires and is the most one of a concern for fire managers. Hundreds of homes still threatened by the fires, and officials note conditions could change quickly over the next few days. A community meeting to discuss those fires. Highway 200 complex will be held tonight in the Thompson Falls High School gym. A second public meeting is set for Saturday at 7. That'll be at the Plains High School gym. And of course, we're continuing to track fire information on air and online as we've been doing all summer long, and with our Facebook and Twitter feeds and the KPAX mobile app. We'll get that latest information to you as you need it. Coming up, several Western Montana football games canceled or moved due to unhealthy air quality. We've got information coming up later in sports.
Plus, we're continuing to follow the investigation into a brutal assault in Missoula involving a baseball bat. What police are saying about it still ahead here on MTN.